cholesterol. Fearful, right? We fear that. The other unique thing about fat, it doesn't stimulate any release of insulin. When you eat fat, there's no release of insulin. Fat has no effect on your blood sugar. It doesn't raise your blood sugar like carbs do. Protein has a very minimal effect on insulin. You will release some insulin, but nowhere near the amount as carbs. Okay? Isn't it so sad that the one nutrient that doesn't interfere with insulin, that when you eat it you actually feel full, is the nutrient every single Tom, Dick and Harry says avoid? Whether it's a nutritionist, a dietitian, with all due respect, a GP, most of them say low fat, low fat. It's the one thing you desperately need if you're overweight, to normalise your insulin levels. You need to be eating fat. I'm going to give you some more details what I mean by that. Therefore, we have, I think, conclusively shown that obesity is a disorder of excess fat accumulation caused by an excessive intake of dietary carbohydrate, sugars and starches, leading to the dysregulation of the hormone insulin, which then places your body into fat storing mode. Because your body has to shunt all that sugar into fat cells because it can't store it in your body cells. Your body cells are full. In fact, your liver and muscle can only store about 400 grams of carbohydrate in a form known as glycogen. Once your liver and muscle cells are full, they can't take any more. Your tank is full, but you keep eating more carbs, more carbs, more carbs. How many minutes of intense cardio do you need to do to fully deplete your glycogen reserves? So that maybe you could take in more carbs to fill up your tank again?
90 minutes.
90. You need to do 90 minutes of intense cardio. Now, even if you tried to do that, that would be very unhealthy because that level of cardio every day is a massive oxidative stressor upon your body. You're going to be teeming with things called free radicals. Because when you exercise, if it's extreme and without breaks, your body is using up glucose, using up energy. And if you don't give yourself downtime, then you're going to have wear and tear. To my knowledge, there hasn't been an athlete in modern times that's made it till 90 years of age. A boxer, a sprinter, they don't live very long. Whereas your granddad from southern Lebanon who smoked, takes a cigarette, and ate all the things the doctor said don't eat, made it till 95. But the Olympian doesn't. Think about that. Too much of a good thing.
What's smoking too much is a thing,
No, exercising too much. So this is what's happening. Obesity is not a problem with willpower. It's the carbohydrates. You're eating too much carbs. They're raising your blood sugar levels too quick. The insulin moves in and clears the blood sugar out of your system into your muscle, liver and fat. Your blood sugar levels drop. You feel hungry. So you start eating more carbs. The number one nutrient that people who struggle with their weight struggle with is carbs. They're not struggling with eating too much salmon or tuna or chicken or veggies. They're struggling with eating too much bread and rice and pasta and potato and bagels and donuts and rice and cereal and Coca-Cola. And what family of nutrient does that come under? Carbohydrates. Okay. So you need to own this. Carbohydrate drives insulin, insulin drives fat accumulation, meaning fat doesn't make us fat, carbs do. So what do we tell people who are obese? We tell them eat low fat and exercise more. So go hungry and use up more energy. So they're going to be tired and hungry, right? Then you have to use willpower to stop yourself from eating because you're starving. You'll lose some weight, but the biology will overcome you and you will go back to overeating. Your hunger and tiredness will get the better of you. But there's a cure. If only we would take it. Eat a diet high in saturated fat. That's an evil word. Saturated fat. Protein, green veggies. That's low in carb. You're going to feel full and satisfied. Your blood sugar levels will be stable and your insulin will be low because you're not eating the nutrients that require your body to secrete insulin. Your body will shift from fat storage mode to fat burning mode. Your fat cells cannot surrender the fat in them and release them if your insulin levels are high. It's impossible. The way that you lose weight is you drop your insulin levels by dropping your carb intake, and that gives a signal to your fat cells, okay guys, we can dump some of the fat as energy. You start burning the fat. Excess fat stores are released as energy. Your addictive relationship with food ends as you no longer always feel hungry.
What are saturated fats?
I'm going to talk about that. So I'm going to get to saturated fat, my favourite form of fat. Reverse the cycle. Low carb, low insulin, body in fat burning mode, fat as energy, not hungry, happy. But the Australian Heart Association will say, you're at risk of heart disease. This is not healthy. Low carb, high fat diets are not healthy. So these are some of the results that people are getting. Look at this lady within a year. This lady. Right? Now, if you are going to go low carb, the biggest mistake you can make is not going high fat. Remember, I said you've got 3 nutrients: carb, protein, fat. Protein isn't a good source of energy. Fat is. So if you go low carb and think that means high protein, no, low carb means high fat. You have to eat more fat. Butter, olive oil, eggs, fatty meat, cheese. Some of you are probably thinking, what's this guy talking about? This is so unhealthy.
They're all my favourite foods.
Favourite foods, okay.
We're losing appetite.
You're losing appetite, okay. Now, what do they tell us about these foods? What do they do to us? What have you heard? What do these foods do to you?
Heart disease.
Heart disease. What else?
High cholesterol.
High cholesterol. Make you fat. Don't eat it. Eat only the egg whites, not the egg yolks. Quick fact about egg yolks. Egg yolks contain a very critical amino acid called choline. C-H-O-L-I-N-E. Choline is the precursor to a very important chemical in the brain called acetylcholine. Do you know what disorder there is a breakdown of acetylcholine? Dementia. Choline is critical for memory. Eggs are one of the most nutritious brain foods on the planet. If you've got kids, please don't give them cereal. Cook them on breakfast. Send them to school on an egg. Right? Go to work. There was actually a campaign in Britain in the 90s that said go to work on an egg. And the Heart Association sued them because they said you're going to raise people's cholesterol. It's not healthy. It's just madness. Anyway, don't take my word for it. I'll prove it to you. Saturated fat. What do they tell us? Causes heart disease, clogs arteries, raises cholesterol, makes you fat. Saturated fat is a special type of fat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed, which has a very unique molecular structure. It's a set of carbon atoms in a chain, which are fully saturated, covered with hydrogen atoms. And this is why these fats are extremely stable at room temperature. It's like butter. Butter is stable at room temperature, whereas vegetable oil, which is a polyunsaturated fat, like corn oil, or a monounsaturated fat, like olive oil, are not stable at room temperature. These fats are stable at room temperature, but you know where else they're stable?
In the fridge.
In your body. They're not going to oxidize. They're not going to... The molecular structure, Khalil, isn't going to cause what we call oxidative stress, which is molecules which are unstable because they're losing an electron and they start attacking other molecules to gain that electron. And they cause damage in your cells. Does saturated fat cause heart disease? I'm going to put forward a case that it's been wrongly convicted of these crimes. This was a landmark study. Now, this is massive. This is a meta-analysis. For the scientists in the room, you know. A meta-analysis is a scientific study in which the researchers pool together every single study on a topic, not just one study. Because if I just give you one study and I say that was a fluke, or maybe the researcher in that country liked to eat eggs and he wanted to prove his theory. No, this is all the studies. They looked at whether there is a link between saturated fat and cardiovascular disease. They looked at, over a 5 to 23 year period, 347,747 people. Pretty big number. And they studied the intake of saturated fat and they found it was not associated with an increased risk of coronary heart disease, stroke,